It's been days since our last college football game of last week was actually played. And let me just tell you, a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss, and even more with coming up over the next few weeks. What a week is going to be, and what a season it's been so far. Welcome into the Hayden Coker Show, presented to you by Chick-fil-A in Pell City. You can go down to the Chick-fil-A in Pell City for your catering needs, for your good food needs, anything like that, guys, and we will have you taken care of. Now, something that needs to be discussed right now. Okay, let's go ahead and break this down. Officiating in the SEC, officiating in college football as a whole has been absolutely pitiful this year. We all know that. We've seen it, and unfortunately, it is just a sad reality of where we stand in college football. I think that is certainly something that needs to be addressed. The SEC has released a statement. If you do not know what I'm talking about, over the past weekend, Texas and Georgia played. Texas lost this game, but this was a game in which it was 23-8 at the time, 23-8 at the time, and Texas had just intercepted Georgia and took it back and returned it all the way back to the 9-yard line. While this had happened, you had a flag thrown for pass interference, which was obviously and clearly not a pass interference. This was just a flag that was thrown, and it really just shouldn't have been. Well, yeah, the flag thrown, and while they do call pass interference, and Texas does return it back to the 9-yard line, you also have the flag that was picked up, and the flag that was picked up in the process should not have been picked up in the process. So we have to talk about that. We have to talk about how and why that flag was picked up, and we have to talk about through what circumstances was that flag picked up. Now, what we have set a precedent for is Texas fans. What happened was they threw trash onto the field after the penalty was called. Now, first off, for one, that cannot happen in college football at all. That cannot happen in any sport, in any time, any place. It just should not happen at all. Now you have to think about, hey, was this due to the fans? Did the referees get a little scared at the time? I'm not gonna lie, I would get scared too if I was on the field, if I was on that college football field and I saw all the trash being rained down from the stands. I would have got a little bit intimidated, but you can't let that happen. You can't let the crowd intimidate how you affect how you call the game. It just cannot happen. So for one, we've got to talk about that. Two, we've got to discuss the referees in general, because that doesn't need to happen. Two, it doesn't need to be called back. Okay, no matter how egregious the call is, the fans and how they retaliate, how they react, that cannot affect how you call the game in general, because we have set a precedent that if you throw trash onto the field, you will get your way. And that is just something that we cannot have throughout college football. It cannot happen in general. So that can be something we can talk about. We can discuss how Georgia absolutely manhandled Texas on the defensive side of the football. Georgia did not come into that game prepared. Texas did not come into that game prepared. Georgia had a phenomenal game plan. Their DBs were I'm going to go ahead and give as much credit as I can to Georgia's DBs. They played a phenomenal game. They shut down Texas. There was absolutely nothing that Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning, whoever was in at quarterback could do, because the game plan that they had was so efficient. They were not going to allow Texas to have any sort of breathing room at all. So I think that Georgia had a really nice game plan coming into the game. They played really well. They played really sound. Offensively, they did not play very well. Neither did Texas. Georgia wins this game, and really Georgia should have won the game. And there was not necessarily close from an offensive standpoint. From a statistical standpoint, it wasn't really close. I thought that Georgia was the better team. They came into the game. I thought that Texas was going to win this game. I really did, but they didn't. They didn't win this game. Georgia, they came in and they just outmanned Texas in every aspect of the game. So I thought that was interesting. Another part of the game that I thought was interesting over the weekend was not necessarily this game, but Alabama and Missouri. I hate how some of these things happen, or not some of these things happen, but I hate how um, some of these teams. And when I say some of these teams, I'm talking about Auburn. I hate how some of these teams are allowing a second half comeback to affect the whole part of the game. You look at what Auburn has led in the majority of their games this year. In fact, they've led in, or excuse me, that the one that they did lose, that they did not lead in that game, Georgia and Auburn. Namath Pitt says, I see the girlfriend has been hooking you up with some gear. Absolutely. Lana, if she has. And this is a Corpus Christi shirt, actually. Pretty comfortable, pretty comfortable. I can work out in this one and all that. So it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. And I got some Oklahoma State gear as well. So Namath, I appreciate you for looking at that. And this as well. She didn't buy this for me, but it works and it's the school colors. So go Cowboys. Go Oklahoma State. Namath says, great show, man. What do you think about the JSU on a 4-game win streak with Liberty next week? Namath, I'll go ahead and say this. I do not think that I didn't see Liberty losing last night against Kennesaw State at all. I didn't see them losing that game. Kennesaw State is just not a good football team. They're not a good football program. They just aren't. They never have been. They may be in the future, but they never have been before. I didn't expect for Liberty to go in and lose that game. I think that is really a testament to how Kennesaw State went into that game. They had a good game plan. Caden Salters didn't have his best game at all for Liberty, and I think that was a big testament to why Kennesaw State won that game. Kennesaw State played outstanding defensively, and they really took over the game. Not necessarily dominated, but they did go in and they did show out. Okay, they played a really nice ball game. They played a well-rounded ball game, and that just ended up being the eventuality of it. And I certainly think that Kennesaw State, with the win last night, obviously that gives them a lot of momentum going into the rest of the year. But let's talk about this real quick. Liberty, and the second half of your comment, Liberty plays Jacksonville State next week. Now, Jacksonville State on a 4-game win streak. I'm going to go ahead and say this, okay? The game against Eastern Michigan, they should not have lost that game. They should have won that game. And with Coastal Carolina, I'm not necessarily sure what all Jacksonville State was drinking prior to the game in that water. I don't know what was in their water, but it wasn't good. I think they probably should have kept that game a little bit closer than it was. There's no probably to it. They should have. But Coastal Carolina really came in and they dominated Jacksonville State from the jump in week 1. So I think that is kind of one of the outliers for Jacksonville State in their schedule. Obviously, you have the game against Louisville and then Eastern Michigan. You should have beat Eastern Michigan. You really should have. But coming on a 4-game win streak, now you're going to Liberty. You have to win next week. I think next week is a must-win game. If you want to stay in contention for the Conference USA Championship or the title game, you have to. You have to win next week because it doesn't get any easier. You've got Sam Houston State, I believe, the week after, within the following weeks. So it's not going to get much easier for Jacksonville State, but I do think that they have what it takes to knock off Liberty next week, and I do think they win that game. So, Namath, my question to you, sir, is: does Jacksonville State will they end up playing in the Conference USA Championship game? And if they do, who will it be against? Will it be against Western Kentucky? Will it be against Liberty, Sam Houston? We'll see. But that's my prediction for now. I think that Jacksonville State will win next week in Liberty and come home on a 5-game win streak. Now, Auburn versus Missouri, that was a good game. Auburn, yet again, just a fall apart in the second half. It cannot happen. And I really thought that Auburn was going to win that game. I did. I predicted Auburn to win that game. And in the second half, they just had an absolute fall apart. And so I think that if Auburn wants to turn their season around, then they've got to fix those key mistakes in the second half because a lot of their mistakes are coming in the second half. And so somebody that wants to make a cool prediction real quick is by the name of Brad Coker. Brad, if you're come on in here. But no, in all seriousness, I think that Auburn has got to turn their season around. They've got to make better decisions in the second half. The coaching's got to be better. They've got to not necessarily play as conservative. You you've still got to lay your foot down on the gas. You can't let your foot off the gas, because if you do, things that happened this past weekend, like against Missouri, they will happen. So um, I get it. Like I understand. From a moral standpoint what you're trying to do, but I don't necessarily think that that would have been the right move. I certainly think that in this case, you have to keep your foot on the gas if you want to win that game. Namath chimes in with, I don't think they will, but I think they will make a bowl game again. In replies, I think it'll be Western Kentucky, Sam Houston. I think I think that's a pretty nice take. I haven't necessarily done as much deep dive on Sam Houston, but I do think that they have a really good chance at the Conference USA Championship this year. I think that Western Kentucky will probably win the Conference USA this year, but I think that final game of the year between Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State will be interesting, because that's rivalry weekend, and anything happens on rivalry weekend. But I think that'll be one of the best games of the year for Jacksonville State or Western Kentucky. So I think that'll be one of the better games for both teams, and I can't wait to see that one. We did talk a little bit about Alabama and Tennessee over the weekend. What a game that was! I didn't think that Tennessee was going to win that game. I actually had predicted for Alabama to win that game, but they end up losing that game. Tennessee pulls it out defensively. They play outstanding. Nico Iamaleava was not great. He went out in the game at one point, come back from injury. He just was not good. The backup threw an interception on his first play. Nico Iamaleava comes back in. Some overthrows there, but they do eventually win the game. Now, defensively, I think that was the most important thing for Tennessee. That was probably the best thing they could have done defensively, was go in there and dominate like they did. I certainly think that Alabama has some soul searching to do, and I think they'll figure it out. But it's just a matter of time. When will they figure things out? Because if they don't, which they need to, if they don't, they're in for a long, long season. You've only lost 2 games so far, and if you get a win this weekend against Missouri, then the only other game that I see you losing this year is LSU. But then you have to factor in the Iron Bowl. Kalen DeBoer's first year coaching the Iron Bowl. It's going to be in Bryant-Denny Stadium. How does he respond to a not so great season? So I certainly think that is a major, major game that will occur later on in the year. But for right now, we're going to talk about the HCS Media Power 12. We talked a little bit about the best 12 teams in the country a few weeks back. Now, the HCS Media Power 12 has made a reappearance, and the number 12 team in the country is the Alabama Crimson Tide. The Alabama Crimson Tide, after a tough loss last week and a tough loss a few weeks ago to Vandy, of all teams. So you have been clean swept in the state of Tennessee so far. I certainly think that Alabama has to get it turned around. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. If they don't, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough sledding throughout the rest of the year. I think they do, though. I think they win on Saturday. But for right now, I have Jalen Milroe and this Alabama football team sitting at number 12. Sitting at the number 11 spot, I have the Tennessee Volunteers. The Tennessee Volunteers won against Alabama over the weekend. If it goes the other way, I have Alabama right here. But no, Tennessee won that game. Defensively, they dominated. And I certainly think that they established themselves as the 11th best team in the country. But Nico Iamaleava has to step up. If they want to take the next step and be that great team in the SEC like we all think they are going to be, or think that we thought that they were going to be, he has got to step up. And if he doesn't step up, then you're looking at a Tennessee team that's not really in the top 15. So they've got to step up, and we'll see over the next few weeks what they do. But for now, I have them right at number 11. Number 10, I have the Texas A&M Aggies. Texas A&M Aggies have proven to me after a rough start in week 1 against Notre Dame, they've proven to me that they are the 10th best team in the country. Now, Connor Wigman, he did struggle last week against Mississippi State. How does he respond this week? You've got a big game against LSU that we will predict a little bit later on in the show. We will get to that a little bit later. But for now, I have Texas A&M at number 10. Number 9, I have Clemson. The Clemson Tigers coming in at number 9. Offensively, they put on a show ever since losing that first game to Georgia. I think they have taken a massive step in the right direction. How did they respond? They've got a big game this weekend. And you have Pittsburgh in a few weeks. You go to Pittsburgh. So for right now, I have Clemson at number 9, but I think that they could take a giant step over the next few weeks as they have some much tougher opponents than what they've been facing off against. Number 8, we have Indiana. The Indiana Hoosiers, with an absolutely insane win over the last weekend. You dominate Nebraska at home, and Curtis Rourke will be out. And I understand that Curtis Rourke will be out with a thumb injury for the foreseeable future, but he will be back before the end of the year. Now here's that timetable. Is he going to be back before the Ohio State game? We don't know. But for right now, it's going to be Tavian Jackson stepping in as that number 1 quarterback in that number 1 quarterback position for Indiana. You've got guys like Justice Ellison who can make some really nice plays. Elijah Surratt at the wide receiver position. Ellison at the running back position. So I certainly think that Indiana is one of those teams to look out for. But for right now, I don't see them any lower than the number 8 team in the country. Number 7 is LSU. We have LSU. They play Texas A&M this weekend. How do they fare off? I think that A&M might get the best of LSU this weekend, but we'll see a little bit later on and talk about that a little bit later. I'm really interested to see how Garrett Nussmeier responds to having a good few weeks. Now you go into hostile territory. How do you respond and how do you lead this team coming up this week? Number 6, we have Miami. Miami, not necessarily playing the best right now, but I have them at number 6 right now because of how Cam Ward and that offense has been playing. You have Xavier Restrepo, the wide receiver position, who's been playing some really nice football. So I'm really interested to see how they perform this weekend. But for right now, I have them at number 6. Number 5, we have Penn State. Penn State, not necessarily too sure about them right now, but I think that they could be on the verge of actually finally getting there. Then you have Ohio State over the upcoming weeks. How's that one go? Don't necessarily see it going your way, but I do think that'll be an interesting game over in the next few weeks. Until then, I have them sitting at number 5. Number 4, Texas. Number 4, we saw Texas lose this weekend against Georgia. Georgia is absolutely dominated in every facet of the game. So number 4, I have Texas. Number 3, Ohio State. Still a little bit unproven, but I do have them at number 3. You had Oregon, who beat them a few weeks ago and just played an absolutely phenomenal game. Coaching-wise, out-coached Ryan Day and the gang. So I have Ohio State at number 3 and Oregon at number 2. And coming in at number 1, we have none other than the Georgia Bulldogs. The Georgia Bulldogs coming at number 1 this week, have been playing absolutely out of their minds. You really shut down this Texas team. I do want to see a little bit more from the offense, and Carson Beck has struggled a little bit, whether it's been on the road against Alabama or on the road against Texas. He struggled a lot. So I'm certainly curious to see how he responds over the next few weeks and how he picks himself up. But I really think that this Georgia team is the best team in the country. It's them or Oregon, and Oregon's number 2. So I've got Georgia and Oregon. But, guys, I want to tell you a little bit about Chick-fil-A catering. If you're looking for an easy way to feed your friends and family this football season, you can let the Chick-fil-A in Pell City cater your next gathering. Choose from a variety of trays, including Chick-fil-A nuggets, mac and cheese, chocolate chunk cookies, and chocolate fudge brownies. Perfect for a get-together of any size. Place an order through the Chick-fil-A app, online, or by calling ahead and pick it up at the Chick-fil-A in Pell City, or get it delivered directly to your door. Enjoy more of the game with your friends and when you take your cooking off your plate. Availability and order requirements may vary. Check with your local restaurant for details. And guys, if you're looking for somebody who can work on your vehicle, whether your tires need changing, your oil needs changing, or you need to rotate your tires and all that jazz, well, you can call J&K Tire and the gang and go see them at Steele, Alabama. You can call J&K Tire and Service at 256-570-0777. That's 256-570-0777 for your tires, brakes, alignments, shocks, struts, oil changes, and minor auto repairs. Kirk and the game will get you guys going. Kevin Moore says, "What's up, Sugar Daddy? What's going on, Kevin?" I don't know where that nickname come from, but I hope you're doing all right, brother. I hope everything is going well. But, guys, they will get you going over there at J&K Tire. Then you also have Chick-fil-A. They will get you going on game days as well. Now, this weekend's games are a little bit interesting. Not too many big-time games or marquee matchups, as some people will say. But that's right, Kevin. That's right. Oh, man. Good Lord. But yeah, this weekend we have a bunch of good games going on. And not necessarily the biggest weekend, of course, when it comes to marquee matchups. But, guys, These are still some really good games going on this weekend. You have number 20, Illinois versus number 1, Oregon. They travel to Oregon. Number 21, Missouri. They travel to Tuscaloosa to face off against number 15, Alabama. Oklahoma State travels to Baylor. And Auburn travels to Kentucky. You have Syracuse on the road against number 19, Pittsburgh. That'll be a fun one. I'm curious to see how Pittsburgh plays in that game. It's at home. It's not on that New York turf, so it will be in Pittsburgh. I think that Pittsburgh will get the job done, but Pittsburgh is currently a 5.5-point favorite. Louisville will play Boston College on the road. Louisville a 7.5-point favorite. Rutgers and USC are playing. USC a 14-point favorite. And then Washington and Indiana. Washington and Indiana will play this weekend, and College Game Days at Indiana for the first time, in Bloomington for the first time on a Saturday in forever. So this will be an interesting matchup. I think that Indiana will win this game. It'll be interesting to see how Tavian Jackson plays this weekend as he gets his first start for the Indiana Hoosiers this year. So I think that Indiana gets the job done, and Coach Kirk Cignetti he's got the guys in Indiana rolling. So I think that Bloomington is the place to be right now, and Indiana has taken a massive, massive step over the past few weeks. So I've got the Indiana Hoosiers. Arkansas and Mississippi State will be a fun game. Arkansas is currently a 6.5-point favorite. This game will be played in Starkville. I'm going Mississippi State. Mississippi State continues to improve, and I certainly think they are the better team I'll say that. I have no problem with it. I think they're the better team in this game. I will take Mississippi State as they continue to improve, and I think they're a little bit hot right now on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, they do need to step it up a little bit, but I am going with Mississippi State. Auburn and Kentucky. Now, here's a big one. Auburn and Kentucky. Auburn is going on the road. They're playing in Kroger Field. I think that this is an interesting matchup for Auburn. Over the past few weeks, you've had blown leads in the second half. You get beat by Georgia outright. It's going to be interesting to see how Auburn responds this week. Last week, obviously, you had the game against Missouri, and you let Missouri come back in the second half after being up 14 points in the fourth quarter, and you allow Missouri to come back, and it just does not go your way. Coaching-wise, you have to take a step back, take a look in the mirror, and see where exactly you stand. Because right now, Auburn is in a terrible spot. You're at 2-5. You have Kentucky coming up. Then you have Vandy. Then you're off La Monroe, and then you have A&M, and then you have Bama on the road. So this is the final stretch for Auburn to really turn things around. They've got to get a win against Kentucky this weekend, and I think Hugh Freeze knows that. If Hugh Freeze and company do not get a win in Kentucky, especially if they have a lead again and blow that lead, things will not be pretty. There's going to be growing noise around Hugh Freeze's seat. Obviously, Hugh Freeze will not be fired in the offseason. This is his second season. So that will not happen. But fans will start to talking. Fans will start to be able to want him gone. They will. And it just won't be pretty. So I think that Auburn is hearing that. I think that Hugh Freeze knows that. And I think that Auburn will notice that, and they get the job done this weekend in Kentucky. Now, do they win it convincingly, or do they win this? Will this be a close game? I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a game that comes down to the final quarter, but I think that Auburn will eventually win this football game. And I think that Auburn comes back home and they play Vandy and Jordan-Hare next week, and they will be 3-5 instead of 2-6. Hey, everyone, making a decision about what to eat can be hard, especially when you're on the go. Chick-fil-A and Pell City can help you save time with easy-to-order options on the Chick-fil-A app. Plus, with every qualifying purchase, you'll receive points toward rewards. The Chick-fil-A app, the Chick-fil-A food we all enjoy is just a tap away. Download the Chick-fil-A app and order your favorites today. In participating areas of the state of Alabama, open your Chick-fil-A app when Auburn or Alabama scores a touchdown from the red zone at home, and you'll receive a free treat from our Chick-fil-A Iron Bowl giveaway. Chick-fil-A has teamed up with the Iron Bowl this year, and they will be giving giveaways as like they just said. If Auburn or Alabama scores a touchdown in the red zone at home, you will get a free treat from Chick-fil-A. Now, Alabama and Missouri is another interesting game happening this weekend. I certainly think that Alabama is a better team in this game. I thought that Alabama was a better team last week. Alabama went on the road in Neyland Stadium. Now Josh Heupel is officially 2-0 against Alabama in Neyland Stadium. This is an interesting game, and this has to be a get right week for Alabama. You cannot lose this game, because if you do, you talk about the fans, the outcry from fans, it'll be terrible. But I think that Alabama gets it done this week. Alabama has just enough on the offensive side of the football to win this game, and I don't think Eli Drinkwitz can necessarily hang with Coach DeBoer in this game. I just don't think so. Defensively, I think Alabama smothers Missouri. I think Alabama blows this Missouri team out. We don't even know if Brady Cook's going to be able to play this game. If Brady Cook doesn't play, it'll be Drew Pine. We already know that. Nate Noel is not going to be playing in this game. It'll be backup Marcus Carroll getting the start at the running back position. So I think that takes a toll to Missouri. So I think that Alabama gets this. They're gonna come into this game and they're gonna dominate from start to finish. And I think they blow out Missouri at home. They're currently a 14.5-point favorite, and I think it only grows. So I will certainly go with Alabama in this game. I will take them to win outright. Now, another game, Illinois. We have Illinois and Oregon this week. Illinois is going to Oregon. They're going to Eugene, and they'll be playing the number 2 team in the country, or the number 1 team in the country per the AP Top 25, not per HCS Media. Per HCS Media, the number 2 team in the country. But Illinois will go to the number 2 team in the country per HCS Media, and they will play Oregon. Now, Oregon is a team who has absolutely caught fire lately. What happened a few weeks ago against Ohio State? You go in there, you win that game. Then you bounce back. You have Purdue on a Friday night. Is there a little bit of a hangover effect? No, absolutely not. They went in there. They didn't even give Purdue a chance to think that there was going to be any shot of a hangover effect. There just wasn't. Now, what did teams like Alabama do? Alabama, they beat Georgia one week. You turn around and you lose to Vandy the next week, and that just can't happen. That separates the good teams from the great teams. So give me Oregon. I think Oregon wins this game. I think they blow out Illinois at home. And I think that they continue to make their case for the number 1 team in the country. Although I do think it's Georgia. Guess who's not far behind them? Oregon Ducks. So I certainly think that is in play. But guys, if you're looking for anybody, and I mean anybody, anytime, don't go to just some local mechanic that you know that he can work on cars or trucks or whatever. Go to J&K Tire in Still, Alabama, because he can get you right. Whether it's changing your oil, whether it's rotating and balancing your tires, whatever. J&K, Kurt and the boys at J&K Tire have you covered. You can contact J&K Tire at 256-570-0777. That's 256-570-0777. Contact them. They will get you right, and they're not gonna leave you hanging. This is not a grease monkey. Okay, this is not a grease monkey. For those of you who don't know, the grease monkey is a auto repair shop. No, this is not that. Okay, this is a genuine group of people who will get you in and out, okay? And prices aren't bad either. So go down to J&K Tire, get your tires, whatever you need, fixed, and they'll get you on the road, and you can be ready for your next vacation. I know Christmas time is coming around the corner, so go over there, get right with those guys real quick. Now, this has been the Hayden Coker Show, guys, and I highly appreciate everybody for watching. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Hayden Coker Show presented to you by Chick-fil-A Pell City. I highly appreciate everybody watching. Thank you so much. And we will be back next week, same time, 6 o'clock. We'll be back. We'll be talking a little bit more college football. What's happening next week with some of these bigger matchups? Okay, there'll be some big matchups next week. Auburn versus Vandy. This week you have Vandy versus Texas. I think that Vandy will keep it close, but not necessarily win the game. So Vandy probably won't be ranked next week, although they probably should be. But anyways, that's the Hayden Coker Show. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later.